When God sets his hand upon your life, he will often pull you away from the crowd, not because you are forgotten, but because you are chosen. Isolation is not rejection. It is preparation. The chosen are separated, hidden, and refined because the weight of destiny cannot be carried in the noise of the crowd. Sometimes God removes people, opportunities, and distractions, not to punish you, but to position you. Your wilderness is not wasted. It is the womb of your purpose. When God isolates, he elevates, and every season of solitude is shaping you for the greatness he ordained. When God chooses you for a greater assignment, he often takes you on a path that feels lonely, misunderstood, and even painful. The first instinct is to wonder, why am I being set apart? Why does it feel like others are moving ahead while I am left behind? But what looks like rejection to the natural eye is actually preparation in the spiritual realm. God has a way of pulling you away from familiar places and familiar people so he can do something extraordinary within you. You cannot carry divine destiny while still being bound to every distraction, opinion, and influence around you. Separation is God's tool to refine you, to strip away the things that cannot go with you into your next season. Think of gold before it shines. It has to go through fire. That fire does not destroy the gold. It purifies it, removing the impurities that would lessen its value. In the same way, when you feel isolated, God is placing you in his refining fire. He is burning off the insecurity, the fear, the unhealthy attachments, and the dependence on others so that your faith becomes unshakable. You may feel forgotten by people, but you are handpicked by heaven. While others are chasing recognition, God is shaping your character in the secret place because he knows that the weight of your assignment requires endurance, humility, and strength. When God isolates you, he is also teaching you the discipline of dependence. In isolation, you learn that man is not your source, money is not your foundation, and connections are not your security. In those hidden seasons, you find out that your survival is not tied to people's approval, but to God's provision. He feeds you in silence, strengthens you in weakness, and speaks to you when no one else is around. It is in solitude that you begin to recognize his voice clearly because there are no competing sounds. The power of preparation is not in the applause of the crowd, but in the stillness where you learn to lean on God alone. Look at the lives of those God used mightily in Scripture. Joseph, Moses, David, even Jesus. Each one of them faced seasons of isolation that were never meant to destroy them, but to equip them. Joseph was thrown into a pit and later imprisoned, but every season of separation was preparing him to save nations. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel out of bondage. David was anointed king, but spent years in caves running from Saul, being molded into the man who could shepherd a nation. Even Jesus withdrew to the wilderness before launching his ministry, where he fasted and prayed, building the strength to face the cross. If isolation was necessary for them, it is necessary for you. So when God pulls you away, do not interpret it as rejection. People may walk away, doors may close, and opportunities may disappear, but none of that means you are disqualified. In fact, it means you are chosen. God loves you too much to let you walk into destiny unprepared. He removes what you thought you needed so you can discover that He is all you truly need. And when the refining season is over, when the preparation has done its work, you will emerge stronger, purer, and ready to carry the mantle He placed upon you. What feels like isolation now is the stage being set for your elevation tomorrow. God isolates not to punish, but to prepare, and when the preparation is complete, no force in hell will be able to stop what He has purposed for your life. When God places a calling on your life, He rarely unveils it to the world immediately. Instead, He takes you through a hidden season, a time when it seems like nobody sees you, nobody applauds you, and nobody recognizes the greatness God has planted inside of you. This hiddenness is not punishment, it is divine strategy. If diamonds must be buried deep in the earth before they are unearthed, then so must the chosen be hidden before they shine. God knows that exposure before maturity can destroy destiny. He hides you so that He can mold you without the pressure of public eyes, shaping your character so it can sustain the weight of the assignment to come. Hiddenness is where God works on the unseen parts of your life. He strengthens your integrity when nobody is watching. He sharpens your faith when nobody is applauding. He prunes away pride, impatience, and selfish ambition in the secret place, because He knows that gifting may open doors, but only character will keep them open. Many want the stage, but few are willing to endure the shaping. God will not risk revealing you too soon, because premature exposure can crush you under the expectations of others. So instead, He hides you in solitude until you are rooted deep enough to handle the storms of elevation. Look at David. Before he was celebrated as a mighty king, he was a shepherd boy tucked away in the fields. While his brothers were seen and honored by men, David was hidden watching sheep. Yet it was in that hidden season that God was training him to fight lions and bears, developing the courage and skill that would one day face Goliath. Nobody saw it, but God did. Joseph, too, spent years hidden in prison before he stood in Pharaoh's palace. Those hidden years were not wasted. They were shaping him with wisdom, resilience, and trust in God's timing. Even Jesus lived 30 years in obscurity before 3 years of ministry that changed the world. Hiddenness is not neglect, it is preparation for revelation. In solitude, God separates you from voices that would distort your destiny. He shields you from distractions that would weaken your foundation. You may feel overlooked, but in reality, you are under construction. Just as an architect takes time to lay a firm foundation underground before the visible building rises, God spends more time building what cannot be seen before He reveals what everyone will see. Without that hidden work, the structure of your destiny would collapse under pressure. So if you feel invisible, misunderstood, or tucked away while others seem to be advancing, know this: your season of hiddenness is proof that you are chosen. God is not ignoring you. He is protecting you. He is covering you like a seed buried in the soil. And though the soil feels dark and confining, it is also the place where roots grow deep, strength is formed, and life begins to break forth. Seeds are never meant to stay buried. They are meant to grow. Likewise, your hidden season is only temporary. When God finally reveals you, you will be equipped, matured, and strong enough to carry the mantle He has placed upon you. And those who once overlooked you will witness the undeniable hand of God on your life. Hiddenness is not the end, it is the beginning of destiny. God hides the chosen not to deny them, but to prepare them for a revelation so powerful that when the curtain is lifted, no one will doubt that it was the hand of God that placed you there. When God calls you higher, one of the first things He does is begin removing distractions and unnecessary connections from your life. These distractions may not always appear harmful. They can come disguised as friendships, opportunities, or even habits that seem good on the surface, but secretly pull your focus away from God's plan. Separation, though uncomfortable, is God's way of sharpening your vision. You cannot walk in divine purpose while your attention is divided. To fulfill destiny, you must learn the discipline of focus, and that requires God to strip away the things that compete for your heart, your mind, and your energy. Distractions are dangerous because they don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they show up as people who talk more than they walk, pulling you into cycles of gossip, doubt, or compromise. Sometimes they come as doors that look like opportunities, but are actually traps that delay your progress. Other times, distractions are internal, fear, insecurity, and the endless need for approval. God knows that if you are going to carry out His assignment, your heart cannot be entangled with things that don't matter. That's why He separates you. He cuts off the noise so you can hear His voice clearly. He removes the clutter so your spirit can breathe. He closes doors so you can walk through the right one. Consider Abraham. When God called him, the first instruction was to leave his country, his relatives, and his father's house. Why? Because destiny demanded a separation. He could not see the land God was giving him until he first walked away from familiar voices that would hold him back. The same is true for you. Some relationships, environments, and routines cannot go with you into your next level. God is not trying to punish you by removing them. He is protecting your focus. If you try to drag distractions into destiny, they will drain you before you ever arrive. When unnecessary connections are cut, loneliness can creep in, and you may be tempted to reach back for what God has already released. But trust this, if God removes it, you don't need it. If He takes someone out of your circle, it is because they were not assigned to your journey. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Some people are seasonal, others are strategic, and when their time is up, holding on to them only delays your growth. God will often let people walk away, not because they are evil, but because they cannot handle the weight of where you are going. This separation is also about clarity. You cannot hear God clearly while juggling too many voices. You cannot pursue destiny fully while giving your energy to what doesn't align with your calling. The removal of distractions is painful, but it is purposeful. Like a surgeon, God cuts away what doesn't belong, not to harm you, but to heal you and free you. He knows that destiny requires discipline, and discipline requires focus. The more He prunes, the more room you have for growth. So instead of mourning what you've lost, begin to thank God for the distractions He removed. Every closed door is a blessing in disguise. Every lost connection is God's way of protecting your focus. And every season of separation is an invitation to draw closer to Him. When the clutter is gone, your vision clears, your spirit strengthens, and your ears tune to the frequency of heaven. That's when you realize that what felt like loss was really gain. Gain of peace, gain of clarity, and gain of destiny. God removes distractions and unnecessary connections so you can fix your eyes on Him without compromise. He knows your future requires all of you, your heart, your energy, and your focus. And when you give Him your full attention, He will lead you into a destiny far greater than what you thought you lost. When God sets you apart for destiny, He often leads you into a wilderness season. The wilderness is not a place of punishment. It is a place of preparation. It feels dry, it feels lonely, and it often feels endless, but it is in the wilderness that God does His deepest work. The wilderness is the womb of purpose, the place where divine assignments are birthed. Just as a child is formed in the hidden darkness of the womb before being revealed to the world, so too is your calling developed in the hidden struggles of wilderness seasons. God allows this because greatness cannot be birthed without process. In the wilderness, every distraction is stripped away. There is no applause, no audience, no recognition, only you and God. And that is exactly where He wants you, because it is in the wilderness that dependence on Him is forged. In abundance, you might lean on resources. In crowds, you might lean on people. But in the wilderness, when resources are scarce and people are absent, you learn to lean on nothing but God's voice and God's provision. It is in this barren place that you discover He is your bread when you hunger, your water when you thirst, your light when everything feels dark. Think about Israel wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. That season was not wasted. It was where God transformed slaves into a nation prepared to carry His covenant. He fed them manna from heaven, taught them obedience, and shaped their identity as His chosen people. Without the wilderness, they would not have been ready for the promised land. The same is true in your life. What you are going through now may look like delay, but it is actually development. God is teaching you lessons in the wilderness that will sustain you when you step into your destiny. Even Jesus faced the wilderness before stepping into His public ministry. He was led by the Spirit into a barren place where He fasted and was tempted. Why would the Son of God need such a season? Because even He had to prove the strength of His obedience and the depth of His trust in the Father. The wilderness stripped Him of comfort so that His character could be tested and His authority established. After the wilderness, He came out with power. The same pattern applies to you. The wilderness may feel like it is breaking you, but it is really building you. The wilderness also teaches endurance. Purpose is heavy, and only those who have endured seasons of hardship can carry it. Every tear, every lonely night, every unanswered prayer is part of the birthing process. Just as labor pains precede the birth of new life, the struggles of your wilderness season precede the birth of your assignment. It hurts, but it is holy. It feels crushing, but it is creating capacity in you. God is enlarging your spirit, stretching your faith, and molding your character so that when purpose comes forth, you are ready to carry it with strength and humility. So do not despise your wilderness. Do not mistake it for abandonment, because God is closer in those barren places than you realize. The wilderness is where you hear his whispers, where you see his provision, and where you learn that his grace is enough. It is the sacred place where he impregnates your spirit with vision, endurance, and clarity. And when the season is complete, you will not emerge empty. You will step out carrying the very purpose for which you were born. The wilderness is not the end of your story. It is the womb where God conceives your assignment and nurtures it until the appointed time. And when that time comes, the world will see the fruit of what was formed in solitude. What looked like loss was really life in the making. The wilderness is proof that God is preparing to birth something powerful through you. When God sets you apart, it can feel like you are being left behind. Friends move ahead, opportunities seem to pass you by, and life looks quiet while others are celebrated. But what feels like a setback is often God's setup. Separation is not meant to keep you low. It is positioning you for elevation. God cannot raise you up while you are entangled in environments, relationships, and cycles that would weigh you down. To elevate you, he first has to separate you. The lifting always comes after the pulling away. Elevation requires a foundation, and foundations are built in hidden places. You cannot climb higher while carrying the weight of people who do not belong in your next chapter. Sometimes God removes you from circles where your value is unrecognized because he intends to place you in spaces where your purpose will flourish. Other times he closes doors because the elevation waiting ahead cannot be reached through those entrances. You may not understand why he is pulling you away, but his perspective is higher than yours. He sees the mountain you are about to climb, and he knows the baggage you cannot afford to take with you. Joseph's life is a perfect picture of this truth. He was separated from his family, betrayed by his brothers, and thrown into prison. To him, it may have looked like rejection, but in reality, God was positioning him for the palace. Without separation, Joseph would never have been in Egypt, and without Egypt, he would never have been elevated to save nations during famine. What looked like a fall was actually a step up in God's plan. The prison was not the end. It was the pathway to the throne. Moses too experienced this. Before he could lead Israel out of bondage, he spent years in Midian away from Pharaoh's court. That separation gave him time to be molded, time to encounter God at the burning bush, and time to be prepared for the mantle of leadership. Even Jesus lived in obscurity for 30 years, separated from the spotlight, before stepping into a ministry that shook the world. Separation was the soil from which elevation grew. The truth is, not everyone can go where God is taking you. Some people are comfortable in the valley and will resist your climb. If you try to hold on to them, their weight will keep you grounded. God, in his wisdom, removes them so you can rise. The same applies to old habits, mindsets, and distractions, they cannot survive in the atmosphere of your destiny. Separation clears the runway so you can take flight. Without it, you would remain grounded, tied down by what no longer serves you. It hurts when God separates you. It feels lonely when He pulls you from circles you thought would last forever. But if you trust His hand, you will see that every separation carries the seed of elevation. He does not remove without replacing. He does not pull away without the intention of lifting up. And when the season of elevation arrives, you will understand why He had to first set you apart. So do not despise your separation. It is the sign that God is preparing to lift you. It is proof that you are chosen for more. When He raises you, the same people who wondered why you were hidden will witness the glory of what He was building in you. Your separation is not wasted. It is a divine strategy. God pulls you away today so that He can place you higher tomorrow. And when the elevation comes, you will stand stronger, wiser, and more rooted because you allowed Him to set you apart first. When God isolates you, it is not because He has abandoned you. It is because He has marked you. Isolation is often the first sign of divine destiny. The weight of your calling cannot be shared with everyone, and the journey to your purpose cannot be walked with the crowd. God pulls you into seasons of solitude to whisper truths about your life that others are not meant to hear. While people may interpret your loneliness as rejection, heaven calls it recognition. God isolates those He intends to use because destiny requires clarity, focus, and strength that can only be forged in quiet places. Isolation is where destiny is revealed. When everything familiar is stripped away, you begin to discover who you really are and who God has called you to be. Surrounded by noise, you might confuse your identity with the expectations of others, but alone with God, you hear His voice reminding you of your true assignment. In the silence, He speaks vision. In the solitude, He births direction. In the stillness, He confirms that your life has a purpose beyond what people see. What feels like separation from the world is really connection to heaven. Consider Joseph once again. Before he stood before Pharaoh, he endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Those years of isolation were not wasted. They were the proving ground for his destiny. God revealed dreams to Joseph long before they came to pass, but the full understanding of his calling was only uncovered through seasons of solitude. His isolation was not evidence of being forgotten. It was evidence that God had chosen him to preserve nations. Look at Elijah. After confronting the prophets of Baal, he was led into isolation, fed by ravens at the brook Cherith. It was in that season, away from the crowd, that he learned God's faithfulness. Later in the cave, when fear consumed him, he heard God's voice not in the wind, fire, or earthquake, but in a gentle whisper. That whisper was revelation, and it came only through isolation. Without solitude, Elijah might have missed the still, small voice that shaped his destiny.